The dust finally settled. The blade still sang in my hand. The northern sword sliced through him, fury enough to rend the continent. Turkle roars, demanding his voice cut through the chaos. He claims he arrived to keep a dying promise tied to the Rhineland line. His words press Klein toward the throne, demanding he become the Empire's greatest knight. Klein's reaction will shape the next moment. A massive glyph Jong erupts on the stone floor, its red glow searing the air. The symbol marks the heart of the ancient purification rite, a sigil that can bind the world or shatter it. Every eye fixes on the glyph, aware that its power decides the continent's fate. Veer Man nods, confirms the clerk's statement, and informs Klein that the Duke has specifically requested his attendance at a private audience. Klein must appear before the Duke, likely to discuss the delayed ritual or his role in upcoming battles. This summons forces Klein into a pivotal political moment.
That is correct. The Duke requests your attendance, young master.
Klein prepares to meet his father, unaware of the next demand. Klein's father summons him to the throne room, demanding a report, while Miss Rain again presses Klein for a favor, irritating Archimond. Archimond scolds Miss Rain for her impertinent requests and orders Veer Man to be lenient, exposing internal power struggles. The assembled cousins burst into loud, mocking laughter. Their jeers drown out the formal atmosphere, turning the gathering into a chaotic spectacle. This ridicule raises the stakes for Klein, who must now perform under scorn. Archimond's next move could change the mood. A young woman in the crowd whispers that she feels a familiar presence, blaming a wretch for not hearing them. Another voice questions Klein's place, asking if he truly belongs to the Rhineland family. These remarks expose deep-seated resentment and confusion about lineage, threatening Klein's authority. Tensions rise as family secrets surface. Archimond erupts, calling Klein a punk for ignoring elders and demanding why he claims ownership. Klein declares that thanks to the eldest son, the house's reputation as a prestigious swordsmanship school is barely holding together. The statement underscores how fragile the family's honor has become and why the duel matters to all.
Thanks to him, this family reputation as a prestigious swordsmanship house is barely holding together.
The final clash will determine whether the Rhineland legacy survives. Klein steps onto the arena after Dellen's meteor sword flash. He spots the revived corpse in the center and shouts, "It'll be different this time, Del-Lin." He mentions it's his first time seeing a reincarnated body on the field. Klein's outburst shows he refuses to repeat past failures. The meteor sword display is interpreted as a warning to the Branch family. Archimond remarks that the show proves the inland forces remain alive and powerful. He feels a strange sensation in his eye, as if something flickers. Suddenly, a voice shouts Klein's name, echoing across the arena. The shout draws everyone's attention to Klein, marking him as the focal point of the conflict. This matters because the Branch family must now react to the challenge.
Klein!
The Branch family's next move threatens to upend the duel. A surprised elder asks Klein how long he's been there, his tone mixed with curiosity and caution. Klein looks at his father's hand, feels nothing. He says he still can't feel any mana from him. The father, silent, watches. This shows Klein's power is gone, threatening his ability to wield the Undying sword. The court murmurs, fearing the heir's weakness. Nobody knows the source of the loss.
I still can't feel any mana from you.
Klein's apology to his father sets the stage for the next revelation. Klein bows, whispers apology to his father, admitting his anger stems from lost expectations. Archimond steps forward, explains Klein spent crucial training years locked in a monastery, which robbed him of mana. A rival steps forward, yelling that Klein takes his frustration out after Del-Lin crushed him. He calls Klein a freaking wretch who doesn't even know his mother. Klein flinches, eyes burning. The accusation fuels the family's hatred toward him. It deepens the rift, making Klein's survival harder. The murmurs grow louder, and the council whispers about exile. Klein's resolve hardens, and he grips the hilt of a blade. Klein points at his accuser, demanding clarification. He shouts, "What did you just say?" The hall falls silent, eyes on him. No one dares answer. The question hangs heavy, forcing the nobles to confront their cruelty. It marks a turning point where Klein refuses to be silenced. Archimond steps forward, holding a small device. He tells Klein he must check a sealed chamber first, so Klein can enter the arena before anyone else. He warns Klein to stay vigilant, as the demonstration could turn deadly. Klein nods, noting the air feels oddly calm despite the chaos. The warning carries weight, because any misstep could expose the meteor sword's secret.
You go first. Be careful.
It's strangely clear.
Klein steps toward the arena, sword in hand. Klein watches as Archimond breaks down the technique. He points to the footwork, describing each push off the ground. He emphasizes the timing of the stride and the perfect arc of the blade. Archimond flashes a red warning as the mana crystal sputters. The meteor sword erupts in ember fire, and a towering cloaked silhouette materializes, swallowing the courtyard's light. The scene erupts with chaotic energy, casting ominous shadows over every onlooker. Klein feels his confidence crumble, realizing the second son's mana has vanished and his own chance to wield the legendary blade fades. While Archimond's reputation teeters on the brink of ruin, despair gnaws at his resolve, and the weight of failure presses down on the entire house. The cloaked figure advances unscathed, its darkness gnawing at the arena's defenses, leaving Klein and Archimond staring at an impossible enemy as the mana readout blinks ominously toward 0. The air crackles with foreboding, and the clash of wills feels inevitable.
Loyalty isn't cheap here. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari to see who stands by him.
The walls shatter, a cruel laugh echoes. Blood-soaked fish tank erupts, splashing scarlet water. The young master stares at the crimson tide, glass shards raining. He whispers, "Unbelievable." Remembering Delane's blade, he discovers he can mimic any technique after one glance. Power surges within him. The ability grants a decisive edge in future battles. His new skill soon faces its trial. He commands a carriage ready for the hunt, demanding swift companions. The urgency hints at a larger scheme. The carriage rolls out, the hunt looming. The challenger flips the folded invitation, spotting a solitary seal. He mutters, "For some reason today." An uneasy vibe spreads. The odd mark warns that the hunt is more than a game. He tightens his grip. He strides toward the western forest, where Dalton's trap lies. Klein remembers the spot as a snow-covered graveyard, ice and corpses stretching miles. The ancient ice sheet survived 2 centuries, now turning green. The memory showcases time magic reshaping death into life. He feels the lingering chill. Walking, Klein spots Turkle with a modest retinue. He greets him, confirming his expectation. Turkle's arrival marks the organized hunt's start. His role coordinates the deadly test. Klein follows Turkle toward the main hall. The group reaches the Cornell Manor, sprawling atop the hill. Klein notes Dalton Gly, the host, resides here. The site confirms the invitation source, setting the competition's stage. They stride through the grand doors, poised. Dalton scatters bait across the mountain's midpoint. He explains a starving dog's scent is 100-fold, 1,000 times sharper than a human's. The dogs become relentless hunters.
I've scattered bait all over the middle of the mountain.
The sense of smell of a starving dog is up to 1,000 times that of a human.
Dogs charge toward the bait. The protagonist must survive. Beasts drawn by bait surge across the field, snapping at any movement. Their frenzy turns the hunt into a deadly scramble. Participants must dodge starving dogs or be torn apart. The young master watches, questioning who will survive. Lee Hyun orders his allies to stay, warning, "It's dangerous to go alone." He vows to return with rain-covered supplies. Teresa steps forward, pleading, "Let me come with," but he cuts her off. Her plea shows loyalty despite risk.
Let me.
Lee Hyun spots a glowing sigil, a signal scroll left by the priest. He mutters the priest's presence feels suspicious. A sudden disappearance would betray a failed trap. The observation raises stakes of their covert pursuit. They vow to destroy the scroll if the priest vanishes. Lee Hyun receives orders. If the priest vanishes, rip the scroll instantly. A crest will brand his hand as an alert. Lee Hyun declares the hunt his final prey. He threatens his opponent, vowing to sever the head and fling it at Delane as proof. The threat spikes deadly stakes, revealing his ruthless revenge. He targets the Rainland clan next. Lee Hyun scoffs at the Rainland family, branding them a hollow shell lacking legitimacy. He taunts his rival, insisting they'll never survive the final clash. The insult fuels political tension, marking the opponent. He predicts tomorrow's gossip will spread. Lee Hyun mocks his lineage, cursing his birth family. He foresees tomorrow's gossip, rumors of a fallen northern sword and a disgraced young master. The prophecy fuels fear of his legend. The rival scoffs, refusing to bow. A voice cracks through the tightening space, shouting, "Devour them all!" The command reverberates, urging the magical trap to consume everyone inside. The young master lunges, sword drawn, attempting to breach the barrier before it engulfs them.
Devour them all.
Teresa appears, clutching a fragile artifact. Teresa rushes in, clutching a glowing talisman. She shouts a warning, but the door's iron teeth grind shut, sealing the room. The artifact flickers, its light waning as magic drains. The group remains in darkness, breathing heavily. A hidden enemy watches from the shadows. The hidden enemy emerges from darkness, a cloaked figure clutching a black staff. Lee Hyun watches, his grip tightening on his sword.
Lee Hyun slashes the magical barrier, shattering the stone door's seal. The cloaked figure summons a seething dark pulse, threatening to engulf the chamber. A desperate battle erupts against unseen forces. Lee Hyun watches his comrades teeter on collapse as Teresa's talisman flickers. His confidence wavers under the weight of possible betrayal and the looming death of those he vowed to protect. The dark pulse crashes into the fractured seal, outcome unknown. The sealed arena teeters on annihilation, while the cloaked enemy's hidden agenda looms, promising greater peril beyond the crumbling stone.
The shadows are moving. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and stay safe.
We barely escaped. The enemy army now swarms the horizon. Archimonde grins, his undying blade cleaving bone-clad trash. He stands on a shattered hill, the ghost of a 2-century war roaring in his mind. Dead voices swirl, sharpening his resolve. That ancient battle scar still burns the world, warning that the same evil rises again. He tightens his grip, knowing each step could trigger the old curse. The past watches, alive. Archimonde must face the revived threat before it devours the kingdom. Archimonde's memory drives the group toward the looming skeleton legion. Enron bellows Archimonde. Across the field, Archimonde spins, eyes ablaze, and answers, "I once bore that name." Archimonde steps forward, sword raised, and commands the group to clear the path. He points at the skeletal blockades obstructing the way to the pulsing black bone pillars. "First, we take care of the ones blocking our way," he shouts, voice cutting through the clatter of broken ribs. Enron hears his name, charges forward with a spear, slashing through the nearest skeletons in swift, brutal strokes. Their coordinated push opens a narrow corridor, letting the main force advance toward the mysterious pillars. Clearing this obstacle is crucial. Without it, the squad cannot reach the source of the undead's regeneration. As the dust settles, a hollow voice echoes from the broken skeletons. "The future of the North you protected by killing me," it intones, mocking the heroes. The voice belongs to the ancient commander of the Bone Legion, bound to the North's fate. He taunts the squad, recalling thrones that once ridiculed the Northern realm. The revelation shows the skeletons guard a lost throne's legacy. Archimonde feels the weight of centuries in the enemy's words. Enron tightens his grip on his spear, aware that their fight now threatens the entire northern province. Understanding the enemy's motive forces the team to consider a different approach. Their next move is a desperate charge to crush the bones. Sari shouts a warning, "Sari," as a cluster of skeletons breaks through the crossbow line. Enron reacts with a guttural gua and urges his men to fall back while keeping the formation tight. The undead surge forward, crushing the rear ranks and forcing the heroes to retreat into the ruined wall for cover. Archimonde rallies his fighters, pointing to the open space where the Nyato meteor can be summoned. The squad scrambles to set the sigils, hands shaking as the skeletal tide closes in. This matters because the skeletons are now breaching the defensive perimeter, threatening to overwhelm the squad unless they activate the technique. A crude character, Chinese letter, is etched into the stone beneath the fighting. Archimonde leans in, reads the mark, and watches a skull reattach its own head without help. He shouts the discovery, eyes widening. The realization hits that the skeletons can rebuild themselves autonomously. This matters because the enemy's regeneration is magical, not just physical, narrowing possible weaknesses.
It can reattach its own head?
Archimonde slams his spear into the ground, frustration crackling. He curses, "Damn it, what the things?" Enron tightens his grip, scanning the endless tide of bone. Both recognize that brute force alone won't stop the wave. Their morale dips, but urgency spikes. Archimonde lunges at the nearest skeleton. His blade slices the ribcage cleanly. Blood like ichor spills and the bone shudders. Archimond grins, shouting, and he's sweet, gash. The cut looks promising. Enron watches, bow still loaded. The skeleton's head snaps back on, but the wound stays open for a moment. Archimond steps back, eyes scanning the horde. The brief opening gives the squad a chance to regroup. It matters because a visible wound could be the key to stopping the endless regeneration. Enron lets out a guttural BH as a broken bone clatters to the ground. He then turns to Archimond, nodding toward a comrade who hands him a fresh loaf. Enron reacts with a sharp gasp, asking if the remembered method is Nayato. He looks at Archimond, fearing the dangerous spell. The question confirms they are about to attempt the technique. Nayato is known to shatter bone regeneration but costs great energy. Their decision to try it could decide the battle's outcome.
Is that?
Archimond unleashes a dark Nyato meteor, hurling it at the cracked eye of the bone slab. The impact shatters the core, sending a cascade of bone shards erupting across the battlefield. Enron watches, heart pounding, as Archimond risks his life. A fleeting hope glimmers that the cursed legion falters, yet a devastating backlash looms, ready to consume them all. Yet the towering bone commander looms, its shattered eye glinting ominously. A deeper power awakens, and the squad braces for an even greater terror lurking beyond the shattered slab.
Every move was calculated. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari to see the endgame.
The clash seemed finished, then the earth shattered. A weary knight coughed, glanced at Dalton, and muttered, "You were right." A jagged chasm split the battlefield, swallowing dust and ash. Dalton stared into the abyss, his heart heavy with his family's shattered legacy. The necromancer's blood surged through his veins, granting raw power at a brutal cost. Darkness pulsed from the fissure, a corridor of raw magic beckoning. Dalton felt the fight was only beginning. Archimond, the dark sorcerer, staggered, his defeat hanging by a thread. The necromancer lunged, trying to mask his fatal flaw, but the weakness resurfaced like a wound. Dalton seized the moment, driving his blade straight into the mage's heart. Archimond's voice boomed, echoing off the void walls. He declared the hour had come for Dalton to answer for his crimes. He spoke of the revival art, a cursed technique that drained its caster and bound Dalton to a karmic prison. Dalton faced a stark choice: accept his punishment or carve a desperate escape.
Now you pay for your sins.
Dalton's resolve hardened, his eyes burning with defiant fire. Archimond barked, "Drop." He expected Dalton to surrender his blade. Dalton snarled, refusing, his grip tightening around the sword. The clash of wills crackled, each heartbeat a battle for control of the necromantic power. The sword was the key to shattering the artificial afterlife. Archimond scoffed, declaring Dalton would never break the revival art. His power was too weak. He implied the necromantic seal would stop any attempt. The taunt reminded Dalton of past failures, raising tension.
Not that you could even try.
Dalton's frustration fueled a reckless gamble. Dalton tried to speak, his voice trembling in the void. He opened his mouth, but only a broken fragment escaped, drowned by oppressive darkness. The cursed afterlife muffled his words, leaving him unable to demand answers. He felt unseen eyes watching, the weight of isolation crushing his spirit. The commander barked, "Do you understand?" The knight answered with a single word, "Gold," indicating the price for obedience. This revealed the commander's reliance on wealth to enforce loyalty, hinting at corruption within the ranks.
Do you understand? Gold.
The hunting competition reached its climax as factions clashed. The knight heard a strange sound and asked Miss Rain if something was wrong. He noted the master was delayed and decided to search for him. He then told Miss Rain to return to the mansion with the priest. His choice risked leaving the battlefield unguarded. His next move would test the priest's loyalty.
Something wrong, Miss Rain. Master delays.
Echo stepped forward, eyes narrowed at the swirling necromantic glyphs. He scoffed, saying the revival art was a twisted copy of true necromancy. He doubted the enemy could sustain it without draining his life. The comment revealed the team's awareness of the revival art's cost and hinted at a possible weakness.
Revival art, huh?
Dalton lunged forward, blade blazing with crimson fury. He cut the first risen corpse, bone splintered and the floating numeral above it flickered out. The dead soldier collapsed, ash drifting away. Titan watched from the darkness, his eyes narrowing as the cursed numbers disappeared. The necrotic legion stumbled, momentarily disorganized. Dalton's strike proved his blood fury could disrupt the revival art, giving him a brief opening. The battle hung on whether he could keep that edge. Titan prepared a countermeasure as the numbers rose again. Black vines coiled around Dalton's legs, squeezing his movement. He grunted, trying to wrench free, but the vines fed on his life force, dimming his aura.
Titan unleashed his revival art, spawning a swarming army of black-vined undead. Dalton fought the cursed horde. His blade ignited with blood fury, cleaving 3 resurrected soldiers in a single brutal strike. Dalton felt his aura dim as black vines sapped his life, but his blood fury flare sparked a desperate hope, proving his resolve could ignite even against overwhelming death. A cloaked silhouette emerged from the deepest darkness, brandishing a sigil pulsing with the same cursed numbers. The hidden master's presence hinted that his next move could shatter both allies and enemies alike.
We don't skip the details. Subscribe to Manwa with Harry for the full experience.
The stone walls crumble and the clash ignites. Hugh faces a shadowed stranger as the undying sword bursts with lethal light. The blade blazes, rattling the stone as if a fortress trembles. Dust erupts, freezing the onlookers in place. Hugh roars, demanding the figure retreat. The cloaked rogue tightens its hood, cape snapping like a blade. Swirling sword energy lashes outward, endangering everyone. Every heartbeat counts. Hugh's next strike could reveal the intruder's true motive. Hugh closes the gap, the sword's radiance slicing the gloom. The cloaked foe lifts a gloved hand, murmuring a dark chant. A black aura coils around the figure, colliding with the blade's fire. The air thickens, Hugh's muscles coil. A sudden pulse ripples through the stone floor. The air shivers as unseen force rises. The pulse condenses into a faint glyph, barely visible. The glyph glows blue before fading. The crowd gasps, bewildered. The strange aura hints at deeper magic at play. No one steps forward, fearing the unknown. Judgment looms as a proxy of the Holy Order appears. Hugh raises his hand again, voice booming, and judgment. A sinner shouts, "This is insane." The man lifts a foot and steps forward, barely moving. Yet his stride cuts through the battlefield like a blade. Soldiers freeze, unable to react. His calm gait belies the chaos he creates. The air ripples around him as if his foot alone drags a storm. Everyone watches, waiting for his next move. His silent advance threatens the remaining troops. As the man stands, a gust sweeps the field. Wind pressure intensifies, bodies nearby snap apart without a blade. 20 corpses are ripped cleanly, blood spraying. The mercenaries' ranks collapse instantly. Onlookers stare, horrified by the invisible force, fearing more loss. This display proves the figure wields necromantic might. A quiet onlooker watches the scene and sighs. I guess using necromancy with this body was too much after all. A veteran recalls Klein's swordsmanship demonstration, confirming he showed no skill. Heinkel himself testified that Klein possesses no magical power, so killing Dalton seems impossible. Another official admits there's nothing to clear Dalton's failure, but warns that if anyone discovers Dalton attempted to assassinate a direct lineage lord, the whole Cowell house will collapse. The stakes rise as the family's reputation hangs on this secret. The lead conspirator decides to change tactics, asking bluntly, "What kind of person is Lord Klein?" A court scholar mentions Archduchess Claire of Borneo, recalling bizarre rumors that surrounded her, implying her influence still looms. This shift shows they're probing Klein's background for leverage, hoping to find a flaw to exploit. Wait, hold on, something isn't adding up here. Lady Lade steps onto the sword practice field. Soldiers pause, confused by her armor. A guard asks why she's here. An officer answers that the recent incident has nothing to do with the Wyvern family, and that they permitted her attendance. Her presence shows the Blue Holy Spear Knights are officially observing the demonstration. It raises the political stakes for Klein's claim to power. Dalton, the mercenary who fell earlier, receives a sealed order from the Blue Holy Spear Knights. The courier hands him the parchment, and he reads a directive to secure the demonstration's perimeter and report any necromantic activity. Klein spots a wyvern perched near the battlefield, its wings spread. He decides to flip the situation, planning to use the wyvern's presence against his enemies. He formulates a plan to lure the knights into the wyvern's range. This shows Klein turning a threat into a weapon, upping the stakes of his conflict. A cloaked figure steps close to Klein and whispers, "Touch you." Klein stiffens, sensing a hidden threat. The figure's words hint at a power or a curse. Klein realizes someone may try to bind him with necromancy. This moment raises danger, suggesting an unseen enemy ready to intervene. Hugh steps forward, hand raised, and declares a baptism that can erase sins.
Klein seizes the soaring wyvern, hurling the beast into the knight's ranks as a living trap, while a cloaked stranger leans close, whispering a necromantic bind that threatens to shatter his will. Klein risks his freedom and his house's future, as Lady Late's demand forces him to gamble his reputation and his troops' lives against a deadly, unseen curse. The cloaked figure's curse looms over Klein. The wyvern's rampage threatens to turn allies into enemies, and Hugh's baptism ritual hangs, leaving the battlefield's fate balanced on a single, trembling decision.
Loyalty isn't cheap here. Subscribe to Manwa with Harry to see who stands by him.
Blood drips, yet the horde keeps surging from the shadows. Klein learns a shocking truth. Leia, believed to be his cousin, is actually the daughter of his aunt's first wife. No blood, only deceit. A guttural gare rumbles from the dark woods, then a blinding flash of white erupts where the beast steps. The creature reels, claws snapping, then charges the nearby patrol. Soldiers tighten grips, swords raised, bracing for impact. The clash is brief but screams of a far greater menace lurking beyond the trees. The raging battle will soon pull Leia straight into the heart of the conflict. Leia strides forward alone, blade glinting. She spots a towering monster perched on a jagged cliff.
Leia scoffs, calling Klein's lingering doubts childish. She challenges his logic, asking if he expects her to be an archmage. A distant voice mutters that the girl is dangerous, warning Klein to stay alert. The remark adds a new layer of threat, suggesting hidden forces watch their duel. Both fighters sense the stakes rising beyond personal pride.
You think I'm naive?
Klein realizes curiosity is more than simple interest now. Klein admits his motive goes beyond mere curiosity. Leia's gaze locks onto his, measuring his intent. She explains that her stare is meant to gauge his reaction, not just await his answer. The exchange reveals a psychological duel, each trying to read the other's next move. A nearby onlooker whispers that Leia's kiss might be a political ploy or a bribe. He glances at the sealed arena doors and signals they should move inside to watch the duel. The murmur spreads, turning the spectacle into a whispered intrigue. The tension hints the fight may become more than personal. Soon the combatants step onto the field. Klein recalls Archimonde, remembering the noble never resorts to cheap tricks. He shakes his head, convinced Leia's offer is out of character for a true knight. This doubt fuels his resolve to prove himself without relying on favors. His internal struggle sharpens his focus. The duel's rules are about to be declared.
Cowell sums up the plan. Simply put, we fight it out and the winner gets their way. Klein, still uneasy, asks, "Trial by combat. This is quite sudden, so why?" "Sure reasons, Count Cowell." The exchange cements the inevitability of bloodshed and shows Klein's reluctance to accept the Count's terms.
Trial by combat? This is quite sudden, so why?
The stage is set for Handel, the excommunicated knight, to appear as Cowell's champion. Count Cowell steps forward, brandishing a sealed document. He claims evidence shows Klein's son tried to murder him first. He accuses Klein of framing him to hide the truth. He brings up Archduchess Claire, noting rumors swirling around her name.
Klein repeats that he knows the stakes, asking how many times he must hear the same warning. He points out that their father already gave permission for the combat and urges everyone to accept it.
Father gave permission. We must accept it.
The father's blessing pushes the duel forward. Klein declares the trial by combat acceptable and offers to act as champion himself. though he says a champion isn't needed. Cowell retorts, reminding them why they rule the North. Their father's unmatched sword skill and Klein's brother as heir. He questions Klein's challenge and calls his brother to awaken.
I can be champion, it's not needed.
Cowell hints at a hidden champion waiting.
Count Cowell reads the ancient decree aloud. He explains that Handel was stripped of his knighthood because he murdered a priest during a banquet and then refused to surrender his blade. The crowd gasps at the scandal. This revelation shows Handel is not just a skilled fighter but a dangerous outlaw. Klein realizes his opponent carries a lethal reputation. The duel stakes rise as the crowd whispers about Handel's past. Handel's eyes flare red, blood surging through his veins, trembling his sword. He lets out a guttural roar, "Kook!" The sound rattles the arena stones. His aura crackles, indicating unchecked bloodlust. Klein feels the pressure of facing a berserker. Handel, the excommunicated Imperial Knight, erupts in a torrent of blood-soaked fury, his eyes blazing crimson as he barrels toward Klein. The arena shudders under the thunderous clash of their swords, each strike echoing like a war drum. Klein feels his resolve crumble, fearing the erosion of his master's legacy, as he faces a foe whose murderous past threatens to devour his very soul. The judge's sword hovers ominously over the battlefield. The crowd holds its breath, and Handel's blood-hazed roar reverberates, promising a lethal strike that could seal Klein's fate in the blink of a heartbeat.
I read the Roar chapters so you don't have to. Pay it forward and subscribe to Manwa with Harry.
The clash seemed over, but darkness surged anew. A courier rushes in, thrusting a cursed blade into the fighter's hands. The steel shivers, humming with energy. Every eye narrows, this blade could seal fate. The arena trembles as the trial reignites. Suddenly, a silhouette materializes from the mist, sending a ripple through the crowd. Hands grip the cursed steel, eyes scanning its dark runes. A muttered, "Good," confirms its deadly promise. The crowd leans in, pulse quickening as the duel readies. The blade's acceptance seals the combatant's fate. A thunderous roar erupts, and a towering shadow blots the sun. Whispers ripple. He looks terrified. Klein's mask cracks, a flicker of fear. Handel mutters, "It's cursed, that shocked me." Panic ripples as the mana-sapping monster rises, its gaping maw ready to devour.
It's not that.
A glowing gauge on the arena wall flashes. The Overseer's countertracks remaining strikes. Only 6 blows before the trial ends. Tension spikes as each attack becomes precious. The gauge ticks up in the following scene. The counter climbs to, granting an extra strike. The crowd gasps. The duel stretches further. Fighters recalibrate, knowing every move now matters. The arena's energy surges, feeding the mana-sapping monster lurking nearby. The battlefield trembles as the ground cracks. Cracks split the earth, shards spearing the sky. Colossal, mana-draining beast erupts, roaring. From the shadows, Lord Klein steps forward, armor gleaming. His arrival tips the scales, forcing Handel and the monster to confront a fresh adversary. The creature lets out a guttural growl that rattles the arena. Dust falls from the ceiling as the sound shakes stone pillars. Handel steadies his stance, feeling the mana drain intensify. Klein's meteor sword glints brighter, absorbing the monster's shockwave. The two warriors brace for the next strike, knowing the battle will decide the trial's outcome. The meteor sword prepares to deliver the killing blow as the monster reels. The massive beast bellows, shaking the stone floor. Its eyes lock on the duelists. Kong Haejun lifts his sword, eyes narrowed. Lord Klein grips his dark blade, muscles tensing. The crowd leans forward, hoping the fighters can pierce the monster's hide. The trial hinges on this first strike. The pulse coalesces into a thick, ominous aura that wraps around Handel's shoulders. His movements grow sluggish, his expression blank, as if unseen strings pull him. Spectators shout, questioning his odd behavior, fearing magic. Klein watches, unmoved, ready to prove his skill without tricks. The aura matters because any necromantic influence would break the trial's pure sword rule.
I won't use necromancy.
Klein steps forward, promising a duel that relies only on his blade. Klein raises his own sword, its edge gleaming under the arena lights. He declares he will fight without any dark arts, trusting pure skill. The monster roars, its massive form looming behind the combat. And this is where it gets really complicated. Handel steps forward, trying his signature slash. He channels mana into the blade, but his gauge flickers at only 4 units. The monster snarls, its aura draining his energy. Handel's technique flashes, but the low mana limits its reach. The Imperial audience watches, noting his weak reserve. This matters because if his mana runs out, he can't sustain the fight. Klein watches, waiting for his chance. Handle swings again, but the monster darts away, buzzing like a cursed fly. Its movements are erratic, slipping between strikes. Each attempt to land a blow is met with a rapid evasion. The crowd murmurs, impressed by the creature's speed. The monster staggers, its armor cracking further under the meteor sword's heat. Dark blood sprays as the wound widens, revealing a pulsing core. Lord Klein steps forward, eyes fixed on the exposed point, ready to deliver a finishing slash. Handle readies his own blade, mirroring Klein's move. The battlefield quiets, all eyes on the critical moment. This matters because a single strike now can end the monster once and for all. Klein raises his sword, aiming for the core. If the blow lands, the monster will collapse. A shocked voice cries, "Did you just see that?" The words echo as the monster's wound glows brighter. Handle lunges, meteor sword igniting midair, and drives it into the monster's exposed back, carving a blazing crater that forces the creature's dark blood to surge and its armor to crack. Handle's desperate shout echoes across the battlefield, turning fear into fierce hope as the Imperial onlookers gasp. Realizing the swordsman's gamble finally exposes the monster's vulnerable core, threatening its reign of terror. Lord Klein steps forward, eyes locked on the throbbing core, but the monster's wound flares brighter, hinting at a rapid, unseen power that could shatter the fragile advantage and plunge the battlefield into deeper darkness.
Your time is valuable. I won't waste it. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
Blood still drips and the hunt erupts. Klein strides to his mother's grave. A jagged scar glows on his forearm, proof of a lineage. He vows to fight for the blood that birthed him, the brand screaming his secret. "I bear my mother's mark." That fire fuels the duel about to explode. Klein declares he never loses a fight, branding Imperial swordplay as a savage hunt that kills rather than shields. His sneer sharpens his confidence, daring anyone to challenge his ruthless edge. "I never lose. Imperial blades hunt, not protect." He tightens his grip, ready to unleash a razor-thin mana thrust. Klein's cursed edge slams into the Amana-infused sword. Sparks explode as the blade splinters into shards. His eyes blaze, and the broken steel unleashes a pulsing darkness that ripples across the arena. The clash proves the minimal mana technique's deadly precision, sending the Holy Order's gaze into fevered focus. Dorian steps forward, handing the promised blade, warning that it will crumble against Amana steel. The High Priest sneers, mocking Klein's weapon as useless and proclaiming their scheme finished. Their words expose the Order's plan to weaponize necromantic terror.
Here is the sword you requested. The moment it meets a mana-infused steel, it will shatter.
Serves you right, Klein. Your precious blade is nothing.
The wounded foe clutches his bleeding hand, screaming, "My hand!" Klein remains unmoved. The broken sword has crippled him, forcing a desperate grasp at magic. Klein's plan disables both steel and spirit. Merc begins to weave a fresh incantation. The injured opponent scrambles, shouting, "Ag, hurry, stop it." He attempts a sleep spell, muttering, "Siu, arm down, cast sleep." But his broken arm botches the gesture, and the incantation fizzles. His reliance on flawed magic becomes his weakness. Klein readies his next strike. A whisper breathes now. Klein catches a faint whisper, "Shen?" From the darkness. Grace, the silent watcher, murmurs, hinting at a scheme beyond the arena. Her cryptic query forces Klein to weigh his next move. Merc prepares a rite as the crowd roars. Klein towers over his fallen foe, shouting the duel's end, proclaiming victory and demanding the loser confess sins before the Northern Master and kneel for forgiveness. The crowd watches, tension crackling. His command forces the opponent to confront his crimes, tightening Klein's grip on the arena. "Confess your sins before the Master of the North and kneel to beg forgiveness." The opponent's trembling reply hints at a deeper terror. Klein lifts his blade, vowing to march where holy light cannot pierce. He declares that even the most perilous path won't deter them, pleading for divine protection over his comrades. The pledge underscores his resolve to defy the Order. He then calls upon the god. "We go where your light cannot reach, even if perilous." His oath fuels a desperate prayer. Klein drops to his knees, whispering a plea to the god of light. His voice trembles, begging the deity to hear his desperate request. The moment exposes his hidden fear beneath bravado. The audience watches his vulnerability. "Oh, God of Light," Cardinal Merc grills the battlefield commander, demanding to know if any improvement is evident. He highlights that the commander's recent actions have slain more clergymen than the necromancers ever did. The accusation forces the commander to justify his brutal tactics. The Archbishop's questioning looms next. The Archbishop steps forward, accusing the young master of concealing a dark secret within his gut. He demands to know if the Archbishop's recent orders sparked the recent bloodshed. The pressure forces Klein to confront his hidden necromantic lineage. Heinkel's involvement surfaces next. Noble Knight Heinkel steps in, denying personal involvement. He asserts he merely granted permission and supplied crucial intel on the surveillance target.
Cardinal Merc and the Holy Order lay bare Klein Rhineland as a necromancer, tying his concealed power to the slain necromancer's residue and unveiling him as the Inland family's second son, a revelation that ignites deadly intrigue. Heinkel's denial of personal guilt shatters his honor, while the Archbishop's accusations fracture the Order's unity, stripping Klein of secrecy and leaving the battlefield commander haunted by unintended bloodshed. With the Order's network primed to trace every necromantic pulse, the hidden heir faces imminent capture, and the looming war between the Holy Order and the awakened necromancer threatens to engulf the realm.
If you thought that fight was crazy, you haven't seen anything yet. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
Dawn bleeds across the scarred battlefield, yet flames still lick the broken earth. Isar slips into the forgotten mining tunnel, the air heavy with soot. A black plume curls from deep within, accompanied by distant clang of twisted metal. Crushed carts litter the floor, iron scent sharp. A horde of reanimated corpses drags itself toward the tunnel mouth, their eyes glowing with a sickly light, proof of a necromantic surge. From a cracked wall, a cloaked priest watches, his gaze narrowed. Isar notes the undead formation mirrors the forest assault 2 months prior. Gripping his staff tighter, he prepares to strike, aware the hidden priest will expose his art. A fellow knight asks if Isar will be all right after hearing reports of casualties at the mine. Isar replies, "It won't be a problem." He mentions that after his trial by combat, Heinkel, the Duke's champion, now respects his strength. He argues the undead must be tied to the earlier necromantic strike that scarred him. Confident, Isar believes his limited control over 11 skeletons suffices for now. He plans to draw more spirits from the ancient resonance site. Isar spots a strategic opening amid the chaos. He thinks, this is an opportunity. The Duke's messenger arrives, ordering Isar to escort the young master for protection. The heir of the Rhineland family must reach the mine safely. A lone figure emerges from the mining tunnel's mouth. The young master of the Rhineland family steps forward, cloak dusted with ore. He scans the camp, noting the uneasy faces of the knights. Raising a hand, he signals the group to pause and listen. His presence steadies the camp, offering a potential ally against the undead threat. This matters because his hidden sword talent could turn the tide in the coming battle. The young master's gaze locks on Isar, hinting at a secret pact. Isar lifts his ear toward the distant shaft, straining to catch a whisper of wind. He asks the group if they hear anything, then shakes his head when nothing moves. The knight lunges, blade flashing, and screams, "Yes, sir." The young master nods, approving the attack. The priest watches the clash, rosary clinking softly. The corpse falls, shattered bones scattering across the stone floor. The remaining undead regroup, snarling in the shadows. Isar finally channels a faint pulse of necromantic energy, feeling the old resonance stir. The young master raises his sword, rallying the knights for a coordinated strike. The priest whispers a warning to the group, reminding them of the Order's hunt. A unified assault may stop the undead surge before it overwhelms them. The group braces for the next wave, as the priest's eyes flick toward the tunnel's deeper darkness. A whisper spreads through the tunnel. "Archimond, you," someone mutters, voice trembling. The name hangs in the stale air, hinting at a legendary necromancer tied to the current curse. Before the speaker can finish, a sharp voice cuts in. "Hey," it says, pulling attention back to the immediate danger. The mention of Archimond suggests Isar may be linked to the ancient power, while the interruption forces the group to stay focused on the present threat. This matters because it could explain why the undead respond to Isar's presence. "Hey." The interruption fuels the tension. setting up a clash over who controls the necromancy. Isar's eyes flash. Isar stops the group in the side tunnel. He points at a strange glyph on the wall. He tells the young master that the markings indicate a power source. The young master looks confused and asks what it is. Isar replies that it is a massive amount of Lai resonance, a form of necrotic energy. The revelation matters because it could power the ritual they need to control the undead horde. Understood. What is this? Tons of Lai resonance. The priest watches, ready to intervene. Isar continues, describing the ancient method. He says the technique was deployed 200 years ago during the Northern Plague to free the dead from their cursed bonds. The priest fixes his stare on Isar, voice low. He says only you, as a warning, implying Isar alone bears the burden of the ancient curse. This pushes Isar toward a decision about using his newfound power.
Isar steps onto the glowing sigil, and the tunnel erupts with a surge of ancient necromantic energy, a thunderous pulse that shivers the stone. The light blooms, marking his awakening as the possible reincarnation of Archimond, the legendary necromancer of old. The priest's cold warning and the spirit's vengeful whispers claw at Isar's confidence, forcing him to choose. Seize the cursed power that courses through him, or safeguard the fragile hope of the living miners trembling in the darkness. The hidden path now stretches before them, but the priest's ominous "you" hangs in the air, a threat that could shatter the fragile truce. Isar must face an unseen enemy before the mountain's darkness swallows them all.
You got lucky finding this video. Don't rely on luck twice. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
Klein's blade gleams, its master already fallen. 7 years in the dungeon's end as he steps onto his ancestral estate. Servants freeze, murmuring about the cursed air. A corpse cat sprawls in the kitchen, another in the garden. 2 fresh bodies appear at dawn. Count climbs to 5. Whispers flare, his return seems to summon death. More felines drop, tightening the net of suspicion around Klein. 7 dead cats litter the grounds. Servants mutter a single curse haunts the manor. All eyes flick to Klein, the outcast exiled for arcane sins. Rumor spreads like wildfire across the courtyard. The steward warns the curse could soon claim human lives. Villagers clutch throats, fearing a plague. The peasant admits he hasn't decided whether to trust the rumors and remains unconvinced by the cloaked figure's words. He then declares Klein the second young master of Rainland and warns that an atrocious devil of the continent looms behind the undead curse. This confirms Klein's official role and raises the scale of danger. He also urges anyone listening to join the Hari squad before the system crashes. Klein must decide if he will confront the devil himself. A bright sunrise breaks over the horizon, casting light on the reanimated army. Dawn signals the battle will begin. Villagers scramble to arm themselves while the necromancer's forces line up, ready to strike. Dalton mercenaries echo the same observation, confirming the gray presence. One mercenary asks if the sight is fascinating, showing disbelief. Della, a nearby scout, steps forward, clutching a map of the estate. She points to the area where the necromancer may be gathering souls. Their chatter reveals growing panic among the troops. Tension rises as they prepare to investigate.
Is it really that fascinating?
Della leads them toward the dark altar. A servant rushes forward, pulling Klein aside, urging him to follow a hidden passage. He growls, warning of unseen dangers. The group splits, some staying to guard while others move deeper. The phrase "graph" Chinese letter is carved on the wall, a sigil of binding magic. The battlefield echoes with the clang of bone and steel. A lone glyph Chinese letter glows faintly on a shattered wall, a lingering trace of binding magic. Despite exhaustion, Klein's forces keep advancing, refusing to give the necromancer a moment to regroup. Their momentum forces the undead to falter, but the enemy's next move looms. The necromancer prepares a final, desperate spell. The necromancer's spell flares, pulling bone from the ground. Skeletons rise, eyes empty, yet they shift in perfect rhythm. They march forward, arms swinging in unison as if alive. Klein watches, jaw tight, realizing the dead move faster than any living army. A grotesque, pink tongue lashes out from a corpse's open mouth, slick with blood. It twitches as dark energy pulses around it, the hallmark of her rite. The sight confirms that a necromantic spell is in progress, using the dead as vessels. This matters because the tongue signals that the magic is already active, and the ritual cannot be stopped without confronting its caster. A terrified villager bound to a stone slab screams, "It hurts! Crazy! Please kill me!" Their pleas ripple through the chamber as more kidnapped peasants are forced onto similar slabs. A hushed narrator explains that the necromancer harvests these high-quality bodies to fuel reanimation magic, a spell that revives corpses as obedient familiars.
Klein bursts into the necromancer's ritual. The hood lifts, revealing a familiar face. Blood splatters, and the ceremony turns into a personal betrayal. Villagers scream, their terror mirroring Klein's dread. He sees his quest for justice spilling innocent blood. Now he must choose. Uphold duty or become the monster he hunts. A faint rustle behind the stone pillars whispers of a hidden conspirator. Klein's mind races as the necromantic altar pulses, promising an even darker showdown beyond the shadows.
He started at the bottom. Now watch him climb. Subscribe to Manwa with Harry.